Say, what's Zack Snyder up to? Well, Zack Snyder posted a tantalizing little image. It seems innocent enough, but he's known for teasing little clues here and there that a lot of people thought would go nowhere. It meant nothing, and then Snyder Cut happened. Yes, it certainly did. So whenever he does something like this, you can't just pass it off. So basically all he did was he showed this glorious turkey bird for Thanksgiving and said thankful, and that's nice on his Vero account. And then, of course, people, what does it mean? Well, it's a turkey. And oh, wait, what's that behind it? Why, it's some books. Oh, wait. Of course, it's the omnibus collection of Final Crisis, which was a Grant Morrison deal along with all the crossovers and whatnot that's all collected within that book. And now, thanks to this, apparently it's sold out, so they'll have to make new printings of it. Final Crisis was from some time ago. And I enjoyed some elements of it. I don't think it was a complete success narratively. It was just kind of teasing this and that, and then didn't quite know how to pay off as for what became of the New Gods and all this stuff. But it is from a time when DC Comics still cared about being DC Comics, and Grant Morrison and J.G. Jones, they tried. They were actually genuinely giving it an effort. Unlike today, where no one does, apparently, at least not at the big two. So, why have that there? Is he teasing that there is a project underway? And the Final Crisis could just be something that is looked at as for source material, influence, if you will, for some sort of project. Doesn't mean it would be an exact adaptation of it. Some of the elements of that could quite conceivably fit in with the Justice League 2 and 3. Since the storyboards and the Jim Lee art on that was, he already released that to a museum and stuff, and you saw what the original idea was, which had some cool stuff in it, but that business of Bruce Wayne and Lois Lane having a child, no, I didn't care for that at all. But so what do you do? Since it's already spoiled, you could rewrite that into something else. So looking to something else here, and ultimately the sacrifice of Batman could still happen within the Snyderverse story, and certainly the imagery of what happens to Batman in Final Crisis fits right in with that. And there's Superman mourning him and all this sort of stuff. Of course, it was a bit of a bait and switch. The dark side was pulling a fast one, and Batman was not dead, but rather sent back into the distant past, and was supposed to be like a ticking time bomb, literally, as he was thrust back forward into the future. And in the meantime, Dick Grayson took over as Batman and all that stuff. And people thought Bruce Wayne was dead, but he wasn't, and all that. And so, but when he comes back, they had to prevent it was Darkseid's contingency plan if things didn't go his way. And so Batman, his return to his normal timeline would cause all kind of disruption and destruction and whatnot. So thankfully they prevented that and got Bruce Wayne back and all that. Then New 52 happened, and none of that mattered anymore. So on and so forth. But that's the deal. Now Crisis keeps coming up. The CW did their really bad take on Crisis on Infinite Earths, but it acknowledged a multiverse, even including the DCEU in it, with Ezra Miller making a brief cameo in it and all that type of stuff. And then you have to think that his movie coming out soon is going to have elements of that as well. We already know there'll be 2 Batman and all that sort of stuff. So is there still yet hope for Snyderverse? The DCEU is continuing, but will Snyderverse elements continue? And is that a tease that that's what he's doing? Or is he stirring up trouble so that there's a drum beat on WB to give in and let him do this? It's just a sleek sequel. Either way, could be. I don't know. There's some sort of thing going on, and Jim Lee teased this, at the Fandom and stuff like that, and it looked like a recreation of the Crisis on Infinite Earths cover, but it's his version of it, and what that could entail, that they might do a whole big deal Crisis thing of a multiverse event within the movies and HBO Max and so on and so forth. So maybe that's what this ties into. I don't know. It sounds really ambitious and very expensive, so I'm not so certain that all of that would come together. But nevertheless, some form of fashion, perhaps there's something to that. The other thing is was thinking that, oh, well, it's over, they're going to move on, and okay, Ben Affleck is back as Batman for the Flash movie, and then that'll be it. Well, we've got this Batgirl film coming to HBO Max, and with Leslie Grace cast, it was assumed that, oh, maybe she will be in connection with the new Batman, which has Jeffrey Wright playing Commissioner Gordon, and so they thought, oh, she would be more she's Dominican, but you know, the features, it might add up or what have you, or whatever relationships this version of Jim Gordon would have, and all. So people were thinking that might be what it means. No, her Jim Gordon, her father is J.K. Simmons, and so that was teased and stuff, and then lo and behold, it's a done deal. J.K. Simmons confirmed that he'll be doing his scenes for Batgirl. So it's within that universe, that, you know, why else have him there unless he's just another alternate universe version of Jim Gordon? But he's Batgirl's father in this film for HBO Max. And so then, well, does that mean Ben Affleck is the Batman? Now, within the DCEU, he already is, so it stands to reason that he would be the Batman in this version of Batgirl. And so does this perhaps lead to a potential return for Ben Affleck? Because it's been rumored and people want it, of course, so there's more wishful thinking than not, that he would get a shot at an HBO Max film or series detailing the film that he had once tried to do way back when, where it was the Batman versus Deathstroke story and all that, and you could get that as a continuation of the DCEU. And then if they want to kill him off, then that could be a part of Zack Snyder's Justice League sequels in some new form of fashion, borrowing from Final Crisis. So maybe that's what it is. I don't know. But it is interesting that these things keep cropping up when it would seem likely that, you know, the Flash film would be pretty much the last hurrah for the Ben Affleck version of Batman, and they move forward with Robert Pattinson's Batman. And yet Robert Pattinson's Batman with Matt Reeves and all that might just want to be its own other universe, which if they're embracing the DC multiverse, then that's workable within that narrative and whatnot. It's extraordinary because typically studios and Warner Brothers were adverse to that because they thought it would confuse the audience as to which Batman's the Batman. And whichever, Superman as well and all that, but maybe they've decided, let's try this instead, and perhaps you could get different versions of it. Again, there's only so much money to go around for these projects, so see how they work that out if that's what they're doing. It's an interesting thing of the Pattinson Batman because there are those scenes of a costume party. It's assumed that this is because it's supposed to take inspiration from Long Halloween and stuff like that. But there was a Superman and Wonder Woman, people dressed up as them for that costume party. So it seems to suggest that there's a Superman and Wonder Woman in the Matt Reeves Batman universe. And if that's the case, you could have a whole other new Superman and Wonder Woman for another DC Universe offshoot. That's sort of the Reeves-verse, I guess, down the road, you know? So these are possible. And it's like Affleck's efforts could wrap up before they even finish Robert Pattinson's trilogy and whatnot. And that there could be offshoots and spin-offs of that if it leads to a Superman or something like that. So still want Cavill back as Superman, but there again, it could work. It's quite the ordeal, but you know, and provided these films and series whatnot produce, then more the merrier, you know. But the aspects of all of this has always been like what Marvel achieved was to reproduce the comic book universe on screen, and they did that. And so as for DC, really all they had was CW shows doing it. But then with the DCU trying to do catch up, they kind of fumbled the ball here and there on that. So it's unfortunate it happened that way. But going forward, DC really owned the multiverse concept more so than Marvel did. And so it would be rather appropriate that they do pursue that in some form or fashion. And just maybe, we're seeing certain things percolate like that. Whether or not Zack Snyder gets to complete his Snyderverse or just produces it and someone else directs and all that sort of thing, what have you, we'll see. But they're still using a lot of the characters that he cast. So it's there in some form or fashion. And so there are some echoes and mirrors within Final Crisis that kind of fits in with the vision that he seemed to be shooting for. So it's possible. And of course, his Commissioner Gordon will be back in Batgirl. So it's curious, isn't it?
Thanks for watching and listening. Say, while you're still here, why not like and subscribe and share with your many friends? Yes. Also, check out my mini stores in the link description below. Yes, where you can get t-shirts, hats, mugs, all those goodies with my artwork on them. Oh, yeah. And head over to indieplanet.com and pick up a copy of my comic book, Night Night. Oh, yeah. You can also catch me at my podcast, Mr. Nailsin Show, on RadioMisfits.com. And you can also watch my videos on BitChute.com and now on Rumble.com. Oh, my goodness. So many places to watch me and my stuff. Oh, yeah. And if that's not enough for you, well, you can follow me on many social media platforms and say hi to your old pal, Mr. Nailsin.